So all of these methods of pest management without using pesticides altogether is looking at integrated pest management. And integrated pest management is really just a combination of pest control measures that are not using conventional use of pesticides. So we're not just spraying pesticides and dealing with pests that way. We're trying to actually reduce use of pesticides by using alternate methods. And so it can include lots of things like the biocontrol that we had talked about, chemicals when necessary. So, very, very careful use of pesticide, thinking about timing and how much of it. Um, just monitoring your population, so just really getting out there and looking at your crops and seeing what kind of problems there are. Um, Altering the habitat, so crop rotation, and even using transgenic crops or modified crops is actually included in integrated pest management. Um, and so mechanical pest removal, where you're literally like pulling the pest off of your crop, obviously very labor intensive. Um, and so in Indonesia, they were using integrated pest management, and they actually increased their yields and saved a bunch of money by not using pesticides. So it actually is a pretty good method to follow. And so, you know, when we talk about pests, a lot of people think about insects, but it's also important to remember that not all insects are pests. Some are actually super important to agriculture, especially bees, which are some of my favorite. I love bees. But the reason why is because these insects are pollinators. And so a lot of plant species rely on these pollinators to fertilize and crossbreed, cross fertilize um, their plants. And so this happens by wind or by animals. And so we have to protect our pollinators. And some pollinators include hummingbirds, bats, and then other kinds of insects like my bees. And so a little fun fact is that flowers are actually there to look pretty and smell nice because they are an evolutionary adaptation. They're attracting pollinators. They want those pollinators to come in, get the pollen on their bodies to move to the next flower to then cross pollinate the next plant. And so it's super important that we conserve our pollinators. They have decreased a lot, and there is a lot of research and all kinds of campaigns trying to figure out what is happening to our honeybee population. And the honeybees have decreased so much, and they are so important to our plants. More than just the plants that look pretty, but also like a third of our diet here in the U.S. depends on bee pollination. And so there is some theory that some of the pesticides that we use are actually killing off our beehives or our bee population. So as that research goes further, we are learning that we need to reduce or eliminate our pesticide use in order to help our honeybees and help our population. And of course, planting other plants that will attract those pollinators.